Have you ever noticed how everything seems to be quiet at first, but then all of a sudden it explodes? Because that's exactly what fans are saying right now about the rumors involving Bambi, Sierra, Yandy, Mendeecees, and the rumors, and videos that people are debating online have everyone wondering the same thing. However, we're not saying that any of this actually happened. Did the activities that took place behind the scenes truly go that far? It's said that a simple conversation somehow turned into one of the most contentious exchanges to date. Sierra, who usually keeps her cool, is now being described as someone who lost it, specifically Yandy, not anyone else. And for that reason, things start to get messy. Some claim that everything is related to an alleged incident involving Bambi and Mendeecees. While some fans call this an attack, others speculate that the reality might be more complex. But what really has everyone talking is the fact that Yandy is being pulled into the middle of everything. According to multiple reports, she might have known more than she said. Some say she was merely trying to keep things from getting out of control. But there were rumors that Sierra wouldn't tolerate it. Raising voices is one example that regularly occurs in these discussions. Emotions were running high, and things soon became personal. According to internet users, Sierra addressed Yandy in an unexpected way and didn't hold back. If those claims are even somewhat accurate, what was said at that exact moment might have totally changed their relationship. Now fans are divided. Sierra defended what was right, according to her followers. The reason everyone is so interested in this issue is because some people are questioning if there is more to the narrative that hasn't been disclosed yet. Where the drama ends and the truth begins is a mystery to everyone. What precisely happened then between Yandy and Sierra? What role did Mans really play in all of this? And why are some people saying that Bambi was the center of a situation that made everything go crazy? If even half of these accusations are true, this is more than simply theater. This is far more important. The room was already tense, but it doesn't seem like anyone expected things to get worse so quickly. Reports state that it started out as a normal, serious, yet controlled talk. Everything changed with one comment. Sources claim that Bambi's entire demeanor changed the moment Mendeecees' name was brought up. She tried to keep quiet at first, but her body language said it all. She seemed to be repressing something, as seen by the discomfort in her eyes. Yandy stepped in, trying not to lose her cool. Others believe that Bambi felt even more nervous due to the way she spoke, despite the fact that she did so in a calm, gentle tone. "It's not what you think," Yandy is said to have said. At that moment, Sierra stepped in, and whatever she said next significantly changed the mood of the room. That one line perhaps might have been the catalyst. What does that signify, though? Sierra was direct, honest, and unreserved in her speech. There, they say you could feel the frustration in her eyes as she looked straight at Yandy. At that time, things started to become worse. Trying not to lose her temper, Yandy tried again to explain. "I'm just saying there's more to the story," she went on. But Sierra didn't think it was true. Sierra swiftly retaliated, either contributing to the tale or covering it up. In an instant, the room was silent. For a brief period, nobody spoke. Looking down, Bambi seemed to be trying to avoid the issue altogether. However, things were becoming unmanageable at this point. Fans responded to these reports by saying that this was the exact point when emotions were running high, and many began holding back because Sierra was no longer merely asking. She was making accusations. If something happened, report it. Sierra reportedly said that her voice was getting louder. Yandy's expression shifted as she said, "Don't pretend that nothing is wrong while you sit here." She was composed at first, but now she seemed defensive. "Nobody's acting," she replied. Eventually, Bambi spoke, but her voice was clearly strained. "I had no desire to talk about this at all." Everyone could hear the crack in her voice even though she spoke gently. At that moment, everything got more personal. Some say such statement just served to push Sierra farther. "Just that?" Sierra immediately responded. Yandy tried to step in again, but Sierra stopped her, saying, "Now that it's out, let's speak about it, even though you didn't want to." "No, let her speak," Sierra firmly said. It seems that at this point, people in the room started to disagree because it wasn't only about what had happened. It is related to trust. Although Bambi did not give all the details, it is alleged that she stated something that shocked everyone. "I felt dehumanized." Those words alone were sufficient to start rumors everywhere. Online enthusiasts assert that a word like that has a lot of weight when used in a situation like this. Yandy answered immediately. "That's not fair," she said. Her voice grew louder all of a sudden, but Sierra stepped in again, saying, "It sounds different because of what you're saying." "So what is it?" she questioned without hesitation. It is said that this was the climax of the tension. Everyone in the room was staring at each other, unsure of where they were. "Because from where I'm standing, it doesn't look right." The family was divided. It seems that everyone had a distinct interpretation of the music. Some believe Yandy was genuinely trying to keep things from getting worse. Her calm manner, according to others, made the scenario seem even more suspect. Sierra, though, did not see this as a misunderstanding. "You keep saying it's nothing," she said, her voice slower but even more furious. Everyone turned to stare at Bambi, and her stillness spoke everything. However, observe her. She was not making eye contact. It was enough for viewers to start passing judgment because she appeared to be holding herself together with her hands squeezed together. Yandy tried to defuse the issue once more. "We're not doing this like this, not in public," she declared. But Sierra was not about to give up. "No, we're doing. This is precisely how things are concealed," she shot back. That line made the atmosphere much heavier. Voices were allegedly raised at this point. Sierra kept her attention on Yandy even as some others tried to step in. "You're protecting him," she bluntly accused him. Yandy immediately responded. "I'm not protecting anyone," she said, but her voice had become less composed and more passionate. "So why are you speaking for him?" Sierra asked, and that question totally changed the situation because it was no longer about a hypothetical situation. It has to do with people's actual roles, loyalty, and trust. According to fans who are keeping up with everything, this was the story's pivotal moment. Once charges become so obvious, there is no going back, and Bambi said nothing. Now, however, silence was the room's loudest sound. And the silence didn't last. It started to affect everything that came after. The tension in the room increased significantly when Bambi stopped talking. Everyone appeared to be waiting for someone to say something that would either improve it or completely trash it. Unfortunately, what came next only made things worse. Yandy took a long breath, trying to steady herself. "This is getting blown out of proportion," she remarked. Her tone was restrained but clearly tense as she spoke. She appeared to be searching for someone to help her. But Sierra didn't even hesitate to say, "You're making this into something it's not. Or perhaps it is something already," she said in a lower but far more urgent tone. The statement, "Simply put, you don't want to speak it aloud," resonated differently. People in the room were reportedly shifting around in their seats. Some people focus intently, while others avoid making eye contact. This was the moment when it stopped feeling like a quarrel and instead turned into a full-fledged confrontation, according to supporters who later commented to these reports. Yandy crossed her arms and stiffened her posture. "You don't know everything," she said. "So don't act like you do." "Then explain it," Sierra said, drawing closer. "Because all I perceive at the moment is your attempt to steer the story," she retorted. Yandy asserted, "I'm not controlling anything." The phrase, "I'm trying to keep this from getting messy," stayed with people because, according to many present, that's precisely when things started to go beyond simple emotion. Bambi changed slightly, still not totally engaging but obviously impacted, and it became about who was telling the truth. Her shoulders were stiff, her breathing appeared labored, and everyone was drawn further into this predicament by her presence. In response, Sierra said, "It's already messy, and the longer you act like it's not, the worse it gets." Fans on the internet claimed that because neither side was making an effort to comprehend the other, emotions were truly running hot at this point. Rather, they were attempting to protect themselves through. Then an unforeseen event occurred. It is said that one of the attendees, who had remained silent the entire time, finally spoke up. At that suggestion, everyone looked back to Bambi, and for a while it seemed like she would finally open up. "Perhaps we should just let Bambi say what she wants to say." She lifted her head a little and opened her mouth to speak, but she paused. Sierra remarked quietly but obviously irritated, "She's not even comfortable. Maybe she doesn't want things stretched out like this, or maybe she doesn't feel secure expressing anything." Yandy shook her head and continued, "See? That hesitation had a lot to say." Sierra responded immediately. The atmosphere was quickly changed by the word "safe." After the suggestion escalated from a straightforward disagreement to something more serious and profound, people say the atmosphere felt heavier. Yandy's face became tense. She said, "Don't do that. I'm not lying about anything." Yandy was the focus of attention once more. Sierra shot out, "I'm reacting to what I'm seeing. Don't twist this into something it's not." When she did talk, it was in a quiet, almost shy voice. "I just didn't like how everything transpired," she said, adding that even while it wasn't a complete explanation, it was enough to keep the tension high because it created more mystery rather than clarity. Yandy asked quickly, "What does that mean?" But there was a delay before Yandy could answer. It lasted longer than anyone had expected. Sierra interrupted again before Yandy could respond, saying, "It means exactly what it sounds like." "No, it doesn't." Yandy shot back, her patience starting to wane. Sierra said, "I'm not speaking for her. I'm standing up for her. You don't get to speak for her." Connected deeply with the audience. Even though no one spoke it out loud, you could tell the shift sides were developing despite the supposedly quiet reactions, which included brief looks and subtle emotions. Yandy shook her head and let out a breath. "This is precisely the reason why things spiral out of hand." Sierra sent back a dot, and all of a sudden they were back where they had been, she explained, because people jumped to conclusions instead of asking questions and then answering the questions. Yandy seemed to want to go. Something held her in place even though her body moved slightly, as if she were trying to draw away from the center of it all. According to those who are keeping up with these rumors, the reason the situation is so hot is that nobody is providing a complete explanation, but everyone is responding, which keeps everything on edge. Maybe the pressure, maybe the anticipation. She whispered, "I don't want to become something bigger, but it already has." Sierra gave her a quick glance, her demeanor softening. Yandy, however, seemed agitated and said, "Ignoring it won't make things better. Perhaps discussing it in this way exacerbates the situation." She uttered those words. And that disparity in strategy, one seeking to confront, the other seeking to contain, became the central point of contention. Because now the focus was on how it should be handled rather than just what had happened. It was more than simply a conversation at this point, and even people who weren't directly participating could feel the tension and electricity in the room. Instead, it seemed like a pivotal moment that was impossible to overlook or forget. It was clear that the situation was far from resolved, despite everyone's best efforts to prevent things from growing worse. Furthermore, even though it appeared that things had already reached a breaking point, the events that followed only made everything more difficult. Yandy appeared to be attempting to separate herself from the scenario by taking a step back, but her expression was clear. The tension in the room gave way to a sharper, more intimate intensity as both sides plunged in. Individuals were no longer merely responding. Even if they didn't express it verbally, they were making a decision about where they stood. "I will not sit here and let this to be misrepresented. Not when I know what actually went down," she answered in a firmer voice. Her statement immediately attracted attention since it sounded as though she was clinging to a version of events that no one else completely comprehended. Sierra studied her with a small inclination of her head. "Then express it," she answered. "As of right now, it appears that you are picking sides rather than speaking the truth." It was a powerful charge, and others said you could feel the room shifting again, as if the temperature had dropped. This was not so much about defending someone as it was about establishing credibility. Yandy's jaw tightened as a result. Sierra repeated, slightly raising her voice, "I'm not picking sides. I'm being real about the situation because what I'm seeing doesn't feel real at all." Yandy shifted again, clearly uncomfortable at the center of it all. "You keep pushing this narrative and it's not fair to anyone," she added, her voice sharper now. She seemed unsure of what to do with them, as seen by the small movement of her hands. Her responses were bringing everyone farther into the moment, even if she wasn't speaking much. Fans reacting to these claims said that because neither Sierra nor Yandy were holding back, emotions totally lost control at this time. Yandy shook her head and remarked, "You don't even know what you're talking about. It's unfair to act like nothing happened when clearly something did." The word "something" appears once again. Every time reappeared, its significance increased since no one could adequately describe what it was, but everyone could sense it. "Then help me understand because right now all I see is you trying to protect him." Sierra shouted in response. Before Yandy's mood completely changed, the accusation hung in the air for a little period. She gave a forceful but quiet reply. "Don't do that. Don't paint me as the bad guy for something I didn't do." For the first time, Yandy didn't only seem guarded. Thus, that moment seemed different. Rather, she was hurt. Sierra refused to give up. "So don't behave like one." "Music," she said. People in the room reportedly responded immediately to that statement, with some looking away and others paying even closer attention. The atmosphere had shifted again, but this time it was thicker and seemed to be building towards something bigger. Yandy finally lifted her head and looked from one to the other. "This is precisely what I didn't want," she remarked. Her voice was weak, but it carried more weight than anything that had been said thus far. And for a moment everything came to a halt. Sierra's voice softened as she turned to face her. She answered, "Then tell us what you do want." But Yandy faltered again, leaving everything up in the air. Yandy quickly stepped in. "She already said she doesn't want this dragged out," she said. Sierra immediately replied, "So why do we continue to do this?" "As the issue is still unsolved," Yandy responded. "Not everything has to be handled this way. It is impossible to simply go on from something like this without dealing with it." And there it was again. It was clear that they had diverse opinions on the subject. One wanted total transparency. The other wanted to control the result. Fans who are watching this unfold assert that this contrast is what caused the situation to become so heated since, although each tactic was faulty on its own, they clashed strongly when combined. "You say that all the time. But every time you say it, it feels like you're closing her down," Sierra said as she stepped forward again. "I'm not shutting anyone down," Yandy said. "I'm trying to protect everyone involved, even him." Sierra went on. Yandy, why didn't answer right away in that? Her silence was more powerful than anything she could have uttered. Did everyone in the room exchange stares because it appeared as though the solution had already been provided without using words at that very moment? Yandy looked down again, her face ambiguous, but her shoulders seemed heavier now, as though everything had finally come up to her. "I don't think anyone should fight about this." Silently, she spoke those words. But since the fight was about more than just the circumstances, that was no longer possible. It concerned how everyone was reacting to it. Sierra shook her head slightly. "This isn't about fighting. This has to do with being truthful," she continued. "And I am being honest," Yandy said, raising her voice even further. "You just don't get what I'm saying. You dislike it as a result." Sierra retaliated. That sentence drove things back to the edge. The voices started to blend together. It seems that everyone in the room tried to ease the growing tension. It was useless though, since both sides were now totally cut off. "You're making this bigger than it is," said Yandy. "Maybe you're trying to make it smaller than it is," Sierra remarked. In an instant, they were back in the same cycle. The accusation-defense response, which didn't advance but instead kept building, has been cited by fans as the reason why the situation felt so heated. Stayed in the heart of it all, silent, anxious, and clearly overwhelmed, but she continued to be the focus of attention despite her stillness. The tension rose and the emotions became more intense as the voices around her grew louder. It became clear that there would be no easy answers, no matter what happened next. If anything, it would further exacerbate the situation. Everyone in that meeting had already been impacted by what was happening, so instead of things improving, they reached a point where it felt like everything was about to blow apart. It was evident that even those who had kept quiet were affected. Their expressions were stiff, and their responses were circumspect. A stronger intensity has replaced the confrontation. Something that seemed like a breaking point,